Everybody, it's me, Beth Maitland, and I'm so excited because I am here today interviewing my friend, Conal O'Brien, and we're going to talk about a lot of things, but he has just finished a two-book series, murder mystery series, and the first book is Birth of the Angel, and the second is Death of Television, and I've heard a rumor that there might be a third book in the oven. I don't know. We're just going to find out some more information now. But I would like to welcome you to my living room, and this is my friend, Conal O'Brien. Hi, Conal.
Hi, Beth. It's great being here. Thank you for doing this. Thank you very much indeed.
Oh, it is my great pleasure, and we are going to talk about all kinds of things, but first of all, the way we met was that we met on the set of The Young and the Restless when you were asked to come and work there and direct. But I know that you were also an actor early in your life, and I know that your parents were actors too. Can you tell us a little bit about your early adventures on the boards?
Sure, I can. All my secrets are out. There you go. My dad was an actor. His name was Vince, and my mother was an actress, and she acted with him for about 1 year until she started having children. She had 10 children. I'm one of 10. My dad was a working actor, much loved in the New York City scene. He did theater, he did some film, he did soaps, he did commercials. He had a recurring part on Dark Shadows. He was the sheriff.
Oh my gosh. He was who? I loved that series.
Everybody does that. Yeah, he played the sheriff, and I don't remember the sheriff's name. I should, but
oh my gosh, that's the actually
Patterson,
until
thank you, Patterson.
Sheriff
Yeah.
Patterson. Until I was on The Young and the Restless, when in my early 20s, I had never seen a soap opera except Dark Shadows. So I had no idea what I was getting into, except if it was like Dark Shadows, I'm all in.
Yeah, it was great. Louis Edmonds was on that, and I got to work with Louis on All My Children, and he actually went to school with my parents at Carnegie Tech, which is now called Carnegie Mellon. But this whole background starts with my parents. I early on became an actor, a kid actor, and then my dad helped me get a job at a summer theater as an apprentice, where I did everything. I acted and I danced and we sang and built sets, and I was a stage manager eventually and a director, and on from that. And he was just a great patron. He just helped and supported and cheered and made it all lovely going forward. So yeah, that's why I started.
That's fantastic.
At Carnegie, I met B.H. Barry, famous fight director, and I studied fight direction with him. So my first jobs professionally were mixed with that. I was doing fight direction, and I was called on to All My Children to do a big fight, and that went well. And I trained with Henry Kaplan for a long time, and then I started directing TV, and I stayed in New York and did All My Children for 25 years. Somewhere around 2010, my father passed. All My Children was kind of at its last run. And I got a call from Paul Rausch, who was then producing The Young and the Restless. And then I came out and saw you guys, which was wonderful. What a wonderful, fun, loving family place to work. It's a great set.
It is a great set, and I'm so glad that it all timed out that way, because we didn't get to work together for too long and not very often. I wasn't in a lot of the story at that time, but it is a friendship that has developed and that I treasure. So we get to talk today about another side, another aspect to your career, murder mystery writing. From theater and entertainment and daytime and television to this. Did you always write? Did you start writing young? Have you always done this? Tell us about your developing your writing skills.
Sure. Yes, I've always been a writer. Mostly I was earning my living doing everything else, acting, directing. And as you know, working daytime, it's a very involving schedule. So you can't just sit down and concentrate on writing. So there was lots of other things. But I would do some screenplays. I would do some plays. I wrote a book for a review. I morphed into doing murder mysteries because I decided somewhere along the line it was the one thing that really made me happy. I think you know I'm a big fan of Agatha Christie and have read all of her stuff multiple times. And I was reading something that was not very Agatha Christie. It was a very violent thriller book. And I thought, I don't like this. I wish I could do something like this, but better. And that started me, that was about 20 years ago, started me trying to do murder mystery. And it's a really fun venue to mess with, to go forward with.
Wow. Well, I know that we had talked about Agatha before because we were joking about it. I have a Scottish deerhound named Agatha because of, and before her, I had a Bouvier de Flanders, a lovely Belgian dog. And the only Belgian I cared about and could really communicate with in French was Hercule Poirot. So my dog's name was Harry, Hercule. So we both have a long checkered path. I have every Agatha book, read him dozens of times. I've watched every incarnation of Miss Marple, Tommy and Tuppence. So if that's how you're sort of shaping yourself as a writer, I'm so excited to see where this all goes. And we've kind of talked about who your favorite. Do you have other influences in the genre that are favorites, or is Agatha the queen?
Well, Agatha is definitely the one and only, but I like Dan Brown. I've been told that my stuff is a little bit like Dan Brown insofar as it's a book for adults. There is adult language in it. There's a little bit of sexual situation. So an Agatha book is very cozy. It's kind of quirky and lovely. And this has a little more edge to it because it takes place right now. It's a story that takes place in the moment and this moment going forward for the next book as well. And it gives it just a different flavor.
And you know what else is really current about this? And we talked about this a little before. Entertainment and media were very interesting and particular about how they dealt with COVID. And on the side of this volume, it says the Covic Murder Mystery series. And I know, for example, on The Young and the Restless, we never touched it. We didn't talk about it. No one wore a mask. There was not one peep. And we talked about some nighttime series, some emergency shows and crime shows where they did entire episodes masked and experiencing protocols and treating cases. And that was a part of their storyline. What made you choose to embrace the bizarre circumstances of COVID, the pandemic in our world and certainly in New York City? What made you decide to carry that on and just make that a character in your book?
Well, it was a last minute decision insofar as I had the first book completely finished in the late fall of 2019. The lead character, the main investigator, is named Artemis Bookbinder, and he's a germaphobe. The book is supposed to be taking place right in that moment. It was going to be put out to the world in spring of 2020, and COVID happened. And so I called the publishers, we pulled it back, and I rewrote the book because you can't be current and be a germaphobe and not notice that there is this terrible pandemic in the world. And that complication, that twist against such a difficult time and human moment was really interesting to work through because this germaphobe it's an act of courage just for him to step outside. It causes him to kind of reach back and find something he didn't know he had, to face all the worry and trauma. People are afraid to breathe. They're afraid to go outside. And it really resonated and made the book much richer than I could possibly have hoped for. And of course, it's the first two books, but yeah.
Yeah, that's, and so very interesting that, again, it's like a secondary character that carries this theme through. But everybody has to go on. Life has to go on. So that was a very real experience for a lot of people. Even non-germaphobes were afraid to leave their homes. And there was so much of that is so real to so many people. I think you'll find it really interesting in these books. So let's talk about your writing process for just a minute. We were talking before about how actors have a process. Since I started acting in my teens, I've always been told that you should do something every single day to add to your career, your training, not your process so much, but your skill set as an actor. And whether it's a vocal exercise, making a phone call, watching a performance, watching a film and taking something away from it. I know writers often have the same kind of thing. How about you? What is your process like?
I do, but I have to say that I love everything you just said. Every actor should hear what you just said. It's extremely important to keep working, to keep learning, keep evolving inside of the moment. And what you're doing is great. And obviously it shows. You're wonderful.
Thank you.
In terms of writing, I like having a very developed backstory before I write anything. By me, murder mystery requires this. If you don't do that, you'll get very confused by the time you hit the last chapter. So that you have to do that, of course. I like evolving the characters and knowing everything there is to know about them. And then the big thing is, once I get to more final stages of the book, of what the words are, I read it out loud. I read it out loud to myself. And then, God bless Gwen, I read it out loud to Gwen because she's a lovely and supportive audience. And when you read something out loud, you learn. You learn what works. It falls wrong on the ear, you should fix it. Certain things you thought were brilliant, when you write them, all of a sudden, they're not so brilliant. They're kind of clumsy, and you just revise and you revise. And that's what I do. I revise, I read it out loud, and I revise it again until I like it. And that's it.
How fabulous. And how I long for dialogue writers to embrace that same technique. And before they press send on their computer to turn in a script, they read it out loud. And I call it unspeakable. When things are just not right, I call it unspeakable, because it's my job to make it sound.
To speak it, yeah, to say it. Right. I can't read that. Well, but people at your level, as it were, I mean, you wordsmith a bit. That's what's expected. So you can kind of get it easier inside of the character's mouth. And that's wonderful. That's really great.
Yeah. Thank you. Okay. So let's see. We were kind of hinting and kind of talking a little bit about another book. Are you going to tease us a little bit with some news?
Yes. Well, as you know, the first two books are one complete murder mystery. Book 1 and Book 2, it is a continuing story. This story begins with the Gardner Museum robbery, a real-life event that happened in 1990. 13 pieces of art, beautiful treasures of art, Rembrandt's. There's a strange chalice that's from 200 BCE. Objects, there's a finial that was atop a flag of Napoleon's army. Objects, artwork, sketches, never been found, nothing. The theme that'll run through all the books is trying to find the stuff that came from the Gardner Museum. The murder mystery, from this point forward, there'll be one in every book. So in books 1 and 2, that's one mystery. In book 3, that's another, and so on, with the same characters, with the same investigators.
May I also say that just because it's a 2-part mystery, each book, in my opinion, stands alone. When you finish book 1, you long for book 2, like you do in any serial situation, the next episode of something, the next Star Wars film, whatever franchise. But you can read the second book standing alone. There's enough information for it not to be confusing at all. If you just pick up the second book, of course we want to pick up both. But even though you're saying it's a 2-part mystery, it does, they do work together, but they also do stand alone, which I think is really complimentary of your ability to do pacing, to pace a story and find the spot to take a breath.
Thank you. Thank you. I worked hard at that. So thanks very much. That's great.
Yeah. And also it's so exciting to find, I don't know how you even came upon the knowledge of this real life art robbery, and then you just sort of made fictional possibilities reveal themselves in your stories, in your plots. And I'm looking forward to every single book that's yet to come. And how fun that in the subplots there's several different things going on, but there's a TV show at the center of it all.
Yeah, I wonder where that came from.
Yeah, writing what we know, I guess.
Yeah, there's something. Of course, it is TV news. It's not a TV soap. It's right. TV news. But because of that, there was a lot that tied in nicely with all the story, because it's news reporters talking about COVID, talking about the Gardner stuff, talking about the murder that had happened. It tied everything in really easily. So
And we kind of skipped a bunch of steps in your life. You now live out a very beautiful bucolic life. You live out in the country in Vermont, right? And you're experiencing, it's the autumn, so you're experiencing beautiful changes in color and your landscape. What made you decide that are you going to author now for a whole new career, this new chapter of your life being an author?
Yes, that's exactly right. That I felt I had gone as far as I wanted to go in television. I had kind of as far as we wanted to go with cities that we truly love, both Los Angeles and New York, and have many friends there. There was something that had needed a place that was quieter, that I could concentrate on writing. And this is that place. This is that place that when you feel tired or you just can't get the next thing, you simply step outside and you breathe the air. Right now, it is beautiful here. It's fall in Vermont. It's everything you think it is. And you feel fed, you feel better, and you can come back in and just work better. The cycles of my working television seem to have come to an end in 2016, which is when I left Y&R. My mother had just passed, and I felt that I had done that cycle and it had completed, and it was time to get on to this thing that I really loved, which is writing.
How beautiful, and how amazing that that whole doors closing and doors opening, if you're just open to it, transitions in careers and in your personal life can just completely embrace you if you'll embrace them and make yourself available to it. I'm so glad that you've decided to do this. I'm so excited. And one of the things I do love, though, about your books is that at the beginning, there's a character description like you would read in any Samuel French version of a screenplay or a script or a play. It's so much fun that you outline every character and you talk about what their impact is going to be, what their personalities are like, and it is so much fun because you still are using all of your tools from the main job of being in show business, as being a detective. As an actor, as a director, as a writer, we evolve characters, we go in and extrapolate, we make logical assumptions based on the material we're given, and we get to flesh all of those things out and make them real. I'm so excited for this new chapter for you. And I'm using a book phrase, a new chapter.
Nice.
Conal, is there anything else that we've missed is that you would like to talk about?
I think, first of all, I couldn't have said what you said in that last bit better. That was great. It's exactly what it is. I loved writing those short descriptions. There's a lot of characters. The books are extraordinarily character driven. It's a big group of them. They all interact. They have all different worlds that interact. And it was a lot of fun, but I did feel that I should have a list somewhere just in case someone says, wait, who's that? They could find it. But those little descriptions, that was something that Agatha was just, I thought was a miracle. In 3 or 4 words, she could describe a character. You knew exactly who the person was. You had a complete idea of their feelings and what their look was, and even how they were dressed. She never said it. She just said these few words. And I try to embrace that as much as I can. I think that's the most wonderful thing.
Awesome. Well, everybody, this is my friend Conal. And if you'd like more information about him, please go to his website. It's www.conalobrien.com. And you'll find lots of information about him there, but also links for you to be able to purchase your copies of his fabulous books. And there's all kinds of other links too, to social media and other interviews, to reviews of his books, as well as video clips. There are some visitations to some of the locations in which these books take place, and you're going to have so much fun entering this new world that Conal has created. Conal, it has been such a pleasure talking to you today. I love you, and I'm so glad you came to my living room.
Beth, I love you too. Thank you for having me. Thank you for doing this. I can't tell you how grateful I am.
Awesome. My great pleasure. Bye, everybody. Go get these quick.